All right, everybody, welcome to the video about optimization. Optimization simply is making something better. So after we launch a campaign, we look at the data. The data tells us how things are doing. We then begin the optimization process to figure out which parts of our traffic campaign we need to tweak to get better results. So let's hop into it.
All right, hi guys. This is Justin Rondo, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit today about on-page optimization. I know you've been focused and super focused actually on developing ad campaigns and digging through the different types of different Facebook ad plays you'll be using. But the secret to some of our best performing campaigns and kind of like our hidden trick in our arsenal really comes down to understanding the on-page behavior and understanding how to improve the conversion rate on any of our pages. Because if you think about it like this, if we are able to boost conversions by 50%, right? That means we're cutting down ad spend by 50%. That means we can, allocate funds elsewhere, and we can increase our, the relevance score. Really, anything we're doing here is just going to improve our ad experience. It's going to improve the experience for the user, and it's going to just improve our moods because we're going to be boosting conversions at a lower cost. So what I'm going to be talking to you about today is on-page optimization, and I'll be showing how I come up with my ideas for page design work, and how I prove that it's working, and then how I scale these updates out. So really what I want to be talking about today is more innovative testing. So innovative testing is more of the large scale changes. Sure, you can get some wins by changing copy and those types of things, which makes sense from a targeting perspective, but you're not going to be seeing the major gains you would that if you kind of swung for the fences and made some initial big changes. Generally, my advice is to innovate, then iterate. All right, so you want to try and find the larger scale changes that are going to be able to make a big difference. Then you iterate down to fine tune those changes. All right, so we can really break this whole process down into 4 steps. The first is identification. The second is prototype. The third is prove. And the last one is mass migrate. And mass migrating, if you don't have a system in place to do that, then pretty much there's no reason to be doing anything that you're working on here. Because if you can't get things launched on your site or apply the learnings to new funnels, to new pages, to new campaigns, then you're not actually going to be able to capitalize on all the hard work you've done. And this work can be a little difficult. All right, so let's move first into step 1, identification. Right? There's 2 types of tests, right? There's the proactive test, which is kind of you understanding that there's an opportunity, and then there's the reactive test, which is kind of based off of the need. All right, so an example of a proactive test would be, you have an area of your funnel that you've been trying to optimize for a while. Maybe it's your top funnel landing page, or maybe it's something along the lines of that of maybe a cart page or a checkout page, something that's needed work, and you're actually going to spend the time to do the usability research, the digging into the analytics, and kind of have the resources in place to make those larger changes. A reactive test is when you have a campaign that is bombing and you need to make a difference, right? So most of the time, I think people think of testing and optimization as more of a reactive process. And I think that's kind of the gateway to getting into optimization. Oh, this isn't performing. Try to figure out why it's not performing. Test a new idea. See if it works, right? So I think most people are used to that type of approach. And I'm going to talk about both, but more or less I'm going to be focusing a lot more on the reactive side, because that's generally how you'll be working with things in kind of the Facebook ad world. So for proactive steps, what you want to do is you pick a spot in your funnel. You identify opportunities areas within your analytics platform. You use qualitative data for your test ideas. So something like true conversion to point out, are they clicking where they're supposed to? What are the session recordings looking like? How is our form usability? You can utilize surveys to ask people about, specific questions that you're not going to be able to get from data. Taking a look at your data sources from, customer support or sales, asking them, what are the top 3 questions you're getting, etc. Then you run the test and prove over a quarterly period. So here's an example of the 2016 calendar at Digital Marketer. And then this is how I broke things down each quarter. The first quarter I wanted to focus on strictly cart tests. I only wanted to find a way to improve our carts conversion rates. It was long overdue, and it was something that I wanted to dedicate resources to and dedicate time to, and then eventually prove. Then we have kind of April, where I wanted to get into some more big ideas. So this was, all right, I need to find a way to increase trials, or I need to find a way to increase take rates of activating trials into full paying lab members. This was the big idea one, where we tried to approach our testing program with, I have an idea, can it be done, and can I prove it? And so we spent this over time. So this wasn't at an area in the funnel. This was more or less I want to shake some things up. So then in July, August, and September, I got fairly obsessed with product pages, and I wanted to figure out, what makes the best product page and then prove it for a digital marketer. And so this is when I kind of worked on, the design layout, how we articulate things, and those types of things. And I'll actually share some of those test results later on. And then finally, at the end of the month, I was focusing on top funnel landing pages, which are things we'll be talking about today, and are probably most applicable to you. And these landing pages are fairly reactive. Not a lot of people will be kind of working on landing pages as a proactive campaign, but we have so many that it was time to kind of do a whole template shakeup, which is what we did in the latter months of the year. All right, so here's an example of a health sheet that we run for our acquisition funnels. And this is not a happy looking health sheet here. So this was over a period of time, over a year over year, what we were looking at for our acquisition funnels. And take a look at this. Our conversion rates on most of them were well below threshold. We did have a note in there that there's a massive spike between periods of time, but that was an anomaly, and we kind of leave notes for other things as well. But what's important here is that we have a certain threshold that we've always been shooting for, which is at that kind of 40% mark for leads, because these are just our lead generation landing pages. And we weren't hitting them on any except one, and that was a fairly low volume one, right? So this got me thinking, well, shoot, something is seriously wrong with our design, because most of the time when people get a template proven, what they do is they just kind of use it, set it, and forget it. In fact, my friends at the company Crayon, which I'll talk about later on, released a landing page report that said that once they launch a page, a very, very small amount of people do any sort of tweaking to that page over that year. So pretty much, if you're doing any sort of on-page analysis and improving your conversion rate through on-page testing and making tweaks to your landing pages, you're doing more than most of your competition, which is a good competitive edge. And what we had done is we got a little lazy and busy. If you saw, we were focusing on other areas of the funnel. But if we had caught this earlier, we probably would have been able to really, really increase our leads, and also increase the amount of people probably jumping into a trial. So what I did then was I freaked out. So this is my buddy Beaker. He and I like to freak out a lot whenever something bad happens. Oh, what a guy. But what I needed to figure out then was, what is causing this dip in conversions, right? And I really concluded that a dip in conversion rates come down to four things, and really only four things. It's an offer issue, an articulation issue, a targeting issue, or a page design issue, right? For all intents and purposes here, we're mainly going to be focusing on page design issues, because I know by the time you're seeing this video that Molly's worked with you very, very hard on kind of making sure your offer's in place, that you're targeting the right people, and that you're articulating that well between the ad and the copy on the page, right? So my goal here is to get you to start looking at your page design to see if it's consistent, a design that people expect to see, and a design that is fairly easy to use, right? So when we launch things, most of the time we think it's super intuitive, but we're so close to it that we forget what it's like to have never seen it before, right? So let's think about this in terms of traffic temperature, right? You're going to be dealing with people here, especially on landing pages and lead gen pages. You're going to be dealing with people who are a warmer audience. So if you're running traffic to blog posts and trying to pixel people and those types of things, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to say isn't really going to apply, right? If you're sending people to a blog post, ideally what you're trying to do is, one, getting them to consume the content. You're trying to pixel them, and then maybe you're trying to get them to click a CTA in your side banner or somewhere within the post itself. But I'm not going to be talking about blog design optimization. We've tried some interesting things at Digital Marketer with that, only to find that we had to go back to what we were doing before. I want to talk about specifically that more kind of direct response. They get to a page. Do they take the action? How do we get them to take the action? So that's what I want to focus on with page design issues. But to break these down a little bit more, your offer issue would really come with, is your offer desirable, right? Is this something that people want, right? And if you've made it this far in the course, you've kind of dealt with those questions already and are hopefully promoting something that people do in fact want. But we always know that just because people want something doesn't mean they're ready to buy it, right? So that's where articulation comes in next, right? So if you have a great offer, but you're not explaining it well enough or clearly enough or attractively enough, then you're not going to convert anybody as well. So these are kind of the offer issue. If there's a problem there, that actually might just be something that kind of cuts you deep and you have to dig in through. But an articulation issue actually is easier to deal with. And it's easier to test and it's easier to prove. For targeting issues, you just want to make sure the right people are seeing it. And how you're targeting people is going to directly impact how you articulate that offer, right? So if you have a targeting issue, most likely you can deal with that by tweaking your articulation to fit that target market. An example of this is we did something like that at Digital Marketer, where we used our customer, we looked at our customer avatars, and when we did our ad grid, we had different avatars and different hooks. And based on the content that was in the ad itself, we automatically changed the headline and subhead on the page to match the ad for that particular hook and avatar. That was an immediate boost in conversions for us and required no new landing pages. It was just a test we ran through VWO and personalized. But I digress. Let's start taking a look at page design, because that's really where we need to focus in this video, because design is important. It is very important. You don't need it to be beautiful. You need it to make sense, right? You need it to be consistent, right? So here's an example of that landing page that was converting so terribly. And here's a story behind this. At the time when we launched this was the best looking page we've ever done. It was also the highest converting page we'd ever done. It broke the mold for our very simple layouts that we created, like Optimized Press. This was like our trailblazer page that just converted like crazy. So what happened? Targeting didn't change. Articulation remained the same. The offer remained the same. It has to be something on the design side, right? And so what I need to do is, if I believe it's something that is on the design side, I need to find out quickly. I need to come up with a prototype, and I need to either prove or fail very fast so that I can move on down the line. But with Molly at the helm running ads, with these ads staying consistent over a long period of time, it had to be something with the design. And one of the things that I hypothesized was that our ads have become so much better. Our in-house graphic designer has really, really upped her game over the period of time, and they are just gorgeous. They have an amazing call to action within them, and people expect to see that type of consistency across the board. Whereas this page, I think, kind of looked like a sore thumb when compared to the professional level of the ads they were hitting. So in this case, I developed a new page that looks quite similar, actually. It actually uses the same format with the headline, subhead, same bullet points, same testimonials that you'd be seeing there. This is a different offer here, which is why you don't see Ryan's face at the bottom and you see Russ. But then we added in a few more bells and whistles there. One, we cut down the form area where it's just a button that says get your worksheet. And you have another one that reiterates after what you'll learn. Then we have an arrow type visual cue to push people down further to have that inline form at the bottom. If they clicked any of the two buttons, get your worksheet, it would load an overlay on the page where you'd fill in your information, get your worksheet, and you'd be done, right? And so there is a functionality shift in here, but there is majorly just a design shift in terms of coloration. We've been using bright colors lately. We've been using kind of more whimsical design. So we should have a landing page that fits that, right? And that worked out really, really well for us here. You can see here that in both cases, we had two variants. What we did here, we had buttons that anchor to the bottom of the form versus having an overlay, and then one with the overlay itself, where the control was converting at 38.09%. But the new design with the button opens, the pop, that had a 45.15% conversion rate here. That is a big difference, right? And so when we applied, what we did was we were like, okay, this was one of our better performing ones. The reason we ran it on this one exactly was because we were able to get more data fast. Remember what I was saying is you want to be able to prove or fail quickly. So then we needed to, figure out how this works across the board, because we don't want to just say, oh, it worked on one. Let's see how this works. Let's just apply it blindly to everything else. You want to actually prove it over, either another or even a third offer before you kind of roll this out. If you only have one offer, then you're done, right? But if you have multiple ones, I wouldn't recommend mass migrating just yet. You need to prove this, right? So I think before we get into the prove area, people might be asking, well, how did you come up with the idea for that page? What did you do to build it? Kind of where do you come up with new page ideas? Because I often get stuck. I want to talk a little bit about the prototyping process. So the tech I use to prototype are Instapage and Crayon. So Instapage is used for building landing pages. It's probably one of the easier tools out there to use, and they have a really great template library where if you're going for speed and you need to prove if it's just a design change, you don't even have to pick your most optimal design that you ideally want to end with. You just want to try something different so you can see if it works, right? It doesn't need to be, this is my final landing page design, I need to mass migrate this thing out. It's like, no, I just need to see if there is a design issue on the page, right? And then I use Crayon to kind of come up with, competitive analysis of designs that are out there. So Crayon is a competitive intelligence tool. Their Inspire product is more or less a design search engine, which is really cool. So what you can do with Crayon is you can go in there and say, hey, I want to see marketing companies, I want to see their landing pages, and I want to see them on desktop, and then they'll sort everything out for you to see what people are up to. A lot of people will go out there and say, don't copy your competitors because they don't know what they're doing as well. There is something to that, but now that people have like full-fledged optimization departments and testing departments and have integrated that within marketing, they kind of do know a little bit more than they did 5 years ago. Furthermore, if people in your field are doing things a certain way, just being different doesn't mean you're going to get more conversions. In fact, it could probably hurt them because people expect to interact with a website in a similar way, like within that market, right? So if you're trying to be different just to be different because your competitors don't know anything, then you're actually going to be hurting yourself. So seeing what people are doing in terms of design, or not even just design, but in terms of functionality, will help you kind of pick the right type of template to use while you're in this prototype phase. Within Instapage, like I was saying, you just dig in and take a look at their templates and just use something. Remember, just pick something. You can go to like Theme Forest if you're looking for the optimal design, but if you're just trying to prove there's a design issue, pick one that you think will perform better that may or may not be the thing you finish with. Here's an example of what you can get in for different landing page templates. If you couldn't find anything in there, like again, just go in there. You have to pay for these, but then you can upload them right into Instapage and get working there. When I can't find a theme, I like to create an Envision inspiration board. So Envision is a design. It's a tool I use to work with designers where you can, they can comment out on things, kind of build out new workflows, and you can see what's going on. It's probably one of my most it's like my hidden secret. I don't talk about it all that much, but I use it a lot. I then go through a cost benefit of using an outsourced team versus an in-house team. And then I like to write out a project spec for the respective team that I'm building this out for. So say I know that none of those themes or templates that I saw would move the needle. Everyone is just garbage, right? Which generally won't be the case. But say I need something built. Then I have to go into pure build mode where I need to kind of build from scratch. So I create an Envision inspiration board. where I just show lots of different landing pages that I like, that I generally grab from Crayon. And then I figure out if this is going to be something the in-house team can use or if it's something I need to outsource. This is the project spec I write whenever I'm kind of building out new pages. So I say we need to develop, so this is for DMHQ, where I said we need to develop a new pricing page, project procedure. I knock that down by each step. I give some notes, and then things I want included in the page, like toggle monthly and annual plans, and then final mock-up, final notes, just saying the mock-up I provided is exactly how I think supported content should look. Don't take each element at face value, etc. So kind of really setting the stage there. Notice in step 1 I have my projects.envision app. After we get 3 pricing page options, we're going to pick our favorite design. Then we'd begin coding out the HTML version. Then we'll do final spot checks. So here's an example of the Envision board where I showed just all of the different types of pricing pages. You can see in the top left-hand corner is what was current, my very terrible mock-up that's right next to it, and then screenshots of different pricing pages. So we went from this to this is what we got back from the team, right? Not exactly what we wanted right away. I mean, it doesn't fit within branding guidelines. All things are kind of off, but it's a step in the right direction. And then we went from this to this, right? So we were able to get things more on brand. So we had to jump from our page that needed some love to then building out to a page that we were happy, showing on the site. So then how do I prove these things, right? I already talked about the different types of like landing page tests that you'd be running there. So the tech I use is Google Analytics, True Conversion, Visual Website Optimizer, and Google Tag Manager. So how I do that is I like to ask myself, of this page, is the page being promoted? Are we getting sizable amounts of traffic? If we're not getting traffic to it, it's going to be hard to prove. Do we need to actually promote this thing? Can I get 100 conversions per variant quickly? That's another important one. If you don't have enough conversions, it doesn't matter. Like, it's not traffic that's going to dictate how long a test runs. It's the actions that they take that will dictate how long a test runs. I have a minimum test period of 7 days. This can change. You can go shorter, but there's a higher risk, right? Anytime you make a data set smaller, there's a much higher risk upon implementation. And then I run on 2 to 3 offers to prove it's offer agnostic. Right, so this is a nice little chart you can use for test length. So this would be minimum conversions per variation per day. Right, so if you are going to run a test for 7 days, you need 29 conversions per variant per day. And when you get down to the 49 and 56 days, it's not really worth running the test. Right, I like to try to keep things within a month. After that, there's so many other variables. People's cookies are expiring. Just all sorts of stuff is happening that can just make the data not useful. So here's an example of a few of the tests that we've run. Okay, so we had our long form sales letter that we had for the $10 a day traffic plan. We created a new variation for that page based off of trying to make a product page look like an actual e-commerce product page versus a sales letter. Then we tried that same product page with a video on top as well from Molly. So here what we ended up seeing was overall the winner was the variant that was just the pure product page. The sales letter converted at 5.3%, the product page at 6.8%, and then the product page with the video converted at 4%. Right, so that was a surprise because we thought that including the video as a transition piece would definitely help, but it actually really hurt us overall. But what was a funny story about this one was when we actually ran this test. I remember talking with Ryan and him saying, "Oh yeah, these product pages look great, but get ready to lose because sales letters always win." But what we didn't really count on was that the product page we created was essentially still a sales letter. It was just designed differently, right? If you've ever heard someone say something like, sales letters don't work, they're wrong. Look at Apple. Apple doesn't use traditional sales letters. They use a visual sales letter, right? So just keep that in mind. So here's another example. We ran this on different offers because just because it worked on one doesn't mean it'll work on another. Where here's our sales letter on the left. You can see it's lengthy. And then we cut down on the amount of content on there, use more visuals. And we saw here that there was a 33.3% lift over the other variant, where we saw the sales letter had a 4.8% conversion rate, where the product page went to 6.9. Pretty cool stuff. So really, once we got to that point and we knew that that was what was going to work, we ended up pushing those out and hard coding them in the mass migrate phase, right? So this is step 4, mass migrating. So the tech and personnel we use Trello, InVision. We have an outsourced team that we use at Capital Numbers, and then our in-house people that'll take care of that for us. So remember when I showed you that page that didn't look on brand or anything, that the coloration was wrong, the buttons were all wrong, and those things? What we did here was we went into InVision and started commenting on all of that to get the page to what I like to call like the 80% mark. From there, I would send an email saying, okay, now it's time to code this out. So in the case of our landing pages, when we had the winner, I just said, I want the perfect hard-coded landing page. Everything needs to look the same, and we need to use this as our basic template, right? For our product pages, I had the same one. This is the actual spec I set out for the product page. Was I need an HTML version of the following page created. The variation will be based with a baseline template we use to create all of our new product pages. Page needs to include the correct fonts and colors for the digital marketer style guide. We use InVision to add comments to our live pages, refer to this link, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of break down to our outsourced team that I need this HTML version completed, right? And what they end up getting over is something that is very, very close, but I'm not going to go through like the small iterations over email with them or through InVision and those types of things. I'm going to get it to that 80% mark, similar to what we did with that pricing page. Once you get it to 80%, you bring it in-house. It's going to take your in-house team far less time than it would to code from scratch, and they can get everything on brand in a far faster than it would be done through the outsourced team. So it's kind of using a hybrid model. So then we build out, I pass that over to our project manager, who will then kind of deal with everything after that. So they have, once they have the HTML version that's completed and coded out, then what they do is the project manager is going to grab all the assets from all the old pages, make sure to get the new images, new copy, new everything that they need to do, and then work that into their project plan for mass migration. So migration steps are as follows. Send pages in InVision with notes to outsourced group. Get page to the 80+% completion level there, and then pass to an internal team member. Have project manager assemble page content and URLs for all new pages. When template is 100%, have internal team fill in content and make live. So that one right there, the one with the asterisk, number 3, you want that running at the same time that the page is being coded. Don't wait for it to be at 80% to start getting the project manager involved. Have them actively getting new copy, new images, and those types of things, because they're coming from creatives, which will take a little bit more time. But once the template is 100%, you'll have all the stuff you need to fill it in, and you'll be able to launch a lot faster. All right, so that's really my entire method for prototyping new, drastically different pages, proving them, and then mass migrating them using an outsourced and in-house team. So hopefully you're going to be able to use this method as well and start to see a nice big lift in conversions and hopefully a drop in ad spend on your next campaign.